Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Coming up tonight in Our News, the AG reacts to a landmark decision on citizenship. $284 million provided in unemployment assistance. Plus, is the country on track to end its state of emergency by August? Welcome to Our News, and thank you for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Attorney General Claude Bethel says if the Privy Council in the UK upholds the landmark Supreme Court decision on citizenship, the government will have to make changes to the law.
I'm sure that the Bahamian people will not accept any judgment on a matter that doesn't come from the highest court in the land, which is the Privy Council.
It's an issue the country has voted against twice. The Court of Appeal, in a 3-2 decision, affirmed a landmark ruling handed down by Supreme Court Justice Ian Winder last year that allows children born out of wedlock to Bahamian men and foreign women in the Bahamas to be entitled to citizenship from birth. Court of Appeal Justice Stella Crane Scott said, "For all the reasons outlined in this judgment, I'm satisfied that the proper interpretation which the framer intended to be given to Article 6 of the Bahamas Constitution is that every person born in the Bahamas after the 9th of July 1973 shall become a citizen of the Bahamas at the date of his birth, if at that date either of his biological parents is a citizen of the Bahamas, irrespective of the marital status of the parents at the time of birth." The two other Court of Appeal justices disagreed. Well, Bethel says he feels regardless of which side won, it would have made its way to the Privy Council. So what happens if the Privy Council in the UK affirms this ruling?
We will all be bound to follow it. And so whatever adjustments would have to be made to domestic law would have to be made in order to accommodate the views, if that is their view. If not, there would be no changes.
Bahamians passed up on the opportunity to address this same issue twice, voting no in 2 referenda, most recently in 2016. Bethel says it's on this very premise that his office is taking the matter to the Privy Council.
We will advance the same positions that we have advanced to date in the Privy Council, that the existing Constitution, as originally written, as originally supported by the Bahamian people on 2 occasions, ought to prevail.
Immigration Minister Ellsworth Johnson said he hasn't been able to sit and read the ruling as yet, but he understands it.
I haven't properly gone through the decision. I haven't taken full advice from the Attorney General. And I think to say that, hey, we have some of the most brilliant judges in the world, and we respect their decision. And if their determination is made that we will go to the Privy Council, that's what we will do.
Well, as the budget debate began in the Senate this afternoon, State Minister for Finance Kwesi Thompson revealed that more than 86,000 people have benefited from unemployment assistance between September 2019 and May 2021. Berthany McDermott tells us just how much was paid out.
According to State Finance Minister Kwesi Thompson, the Minister's administration paid out more than $280 million in unemployment assistance from September 2019 to the end of May 2021.
Through the end of May 2021, our government provided $284 million in support for households by way of the NIB Unemployment Benefit Program and its Unemployment Assistance Program.
The economy suffered a devastating blow during the pandemic, putting thousands of Bahamians out of work. As senators began debating the budget, Thompson said between September 2019 and May 2021, 86,000 Bahamians benefited from unemployment assistance. During his contribution to the budget debate in the House of Assembly, National Insurance Minister Brenzel Roll said $263.6 million was paid out up to mid-May. Thompson also revealed that just over $35 million was allocated for the National Food Distribution Task Force.
We provided, Madam President, $35.9 million for the National Food Distribution Task Force. And Madam President, this supported more than 72,000 beneficiaries.
Then there were the millions allocated for loans for businesses to the Small Business Development Center.
Our government also funded the Small Business Development Center, the SBDC, so that it could provide business continuity loans, grants, and equity financing to the tune of $45 million to over 1,020 businesses.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Well, the Minnis administration is seeking to end the state of emergency in August. Health Minister Remington Wells and Attorney General Carl Bethel said they are hopeful that will happen, but noted it depends on whether Bahamians continue to behave. Here's Jasmine Brown.
Both the AG and Health Minister were optimistic that the Bahamas could be out of the state of emergency based on two factors: that Bahamians continue to get vaccinated and they continue to follow the safety protocols.
As it is right now, the government has indicated a view that we could look towards the August period for the removal of emergency powers. And that is certainly the aim.
I hope so. I would like to be able to see us continue to open the economy in ways we're doing and to fully open in August. That is my heart's desire.
While COVID-19 numbers have been trending down, the AG said it's always good to err on the side of caution. He called on Bahamians to protect themselves.
Everything depends on how we behave ourselves as a people. If we don't behave ourselves and infections go out of control, then the Governor General may have a view as to what is needed to protect the Bahamian people.
While he tabled a resolution to extend the state of emergency back in May, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis also expressed hope that the Bahamas would be in a position to abandon the state of emergency by August. Minnis announced the relaxation of a number of COVID-19 mitigation measures in Parliament, including shortened curfew hours for several islands and additional perks for fully vaccinated individuals in the Bahamas. The country has been under a state of emergency since March 2020 and is now in its fourth state of emergency. It is set to expire on August 13th, but at its last meeting, the House of Assembly suspended until September 22nd. Bethel and Wells noted that Parliament would meet if the Governor General declares a fifth state of emergency.
So the mere fact that the House has adjourned till beyond the expiration date does not prevent the Governor General, in his discretion, should he feel that the emergency persists, to issue a new proclamation, summon the Houses, and cause them to, allow them to debate whether or not to extend the proclamation.
Meanwhile, the health minister says he remains optimistic about the government's goal for August.
In order to do that, we need Bahamians vaccinated. Bahamians are beginning to answer the call in greater numbers. They were always answering the call, but there's an uptick in persons presenting now to come forward to receive the vaccine.
Nearly 80,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine have been administered to Bahamians and residents. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
In other news, Acting Labor Director John Pinder hitting back at claims he was campaigning in Fox Hill in a government vehicle. While he admitted that he has been speaking with constituents about his chances of election, Pinder said you don't campaign in cars, you walk and knock on doors. If successful, he said he would fight for public servants to keep their jobs once nominated. Here again is Berthany McDermott.
Labor Director John Pinder admitting that he has canvassed the Fox Hill constituency, getting responses from residents on his chances ahead of the next general election. Pinder said if he's ratified by the Free National Movement, he's confident the party will hold on to that seat in Parliament.
I born, raised, and grown in Fox Hill, and there's a number of Fox Hillians who've been asking me if I will consider running in the next election for the Fox Hill constituency. I was personally doing my own canvassing to find out what kind of numbers are there, if they're sufficient for victory. I think that's why the opponent is afraid.
So are you confident in your chances?
I'm definitely confident that, the battle is not mine, the victory is mine.
In early April, Fox Hill Member of Parliament Chanel Ferguson advised constituents that she won't contest the seat in the next general election. The announcement came a few months after Ferguson suggested to Our News that she was expecting the nomination. Pinder said he's always wanted a career in politics. However, he shot down claims that he has been campaigning in a government vehicle.
I have never pulled up to anybody's house in Fox Hill in a government vehicle and asked them to support me in any general election. So let me tell my opponent who's claiming that. You don't campaign in cars. You go and you walk and you knock on doors. You don't campaign in cars. That's ludicrous. That's crazy statement being made. I've never worn an F&M T-shirt while I was canvassing in the area of walking through Fox Hill. If you don't call it canvassing, walking through, I've never worn an F&M T-shirt. I may be a red T-shirt, but I don't have any F&M profit meters on.
Public servants are required to resign from their government posts once ratified by a political organization. Pinder called it unfair.
But I don't believe it is fair for a person in the public service who I believe will do a better job than a lot of politicians we just grab from nowhere, who knows nothing about the system, knows nothing about the way in which government should govern. And they have the right to run and go to Parliament. But a experienced, mature civil servant who knows the system can't do that because they have to protect their pension and their livelihood.
The Labour director said if he receives the nomination, he will resign. In the meantime, he suggested that the opposition is picking on him.
Then I am successful, and I get into Parliament. If the government or the Prime Minister sees fit to put me in cabinet in any position where I can influence change to the point where I don't think any other civil servant should have to go through what I have to go through, what Zane Lightboy have to go through, what Wade Watson have to go through, and the gentleman from Water and Sewer.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Nearly 6 months after the Bahamas sent the first set of COVID-19 samples for testing, it is still unclear which variants of COVID-19 are in the Bahamas. Health Minister Reverend Wald says officials are now exploring the option of sending samples to North America labs for testing.
We are still awaiting those results, and we're also looking to send results perhaps even to the CDC to be able to speed up that process.
There are 3 COVID-19 variants that have caused concern globally. The variants were identified in the United Kingdom, South Africa, and Brazil. Each of the variants has multiple mutations. Weld says the good news is vaccines have proven to be effective against all variants. He added that vaccines will also be the key to the Bahamas having a more traditional election season.
We can look to, again, we can look to other countries who've gone forward. Israel had an election this year, and they had some of the worst cases of COVID before they vaccinated vast swaths of their population. So they were able to safely hold a general election in Israel with outside of the ambit of health protocols because their population was vaccinated. And so as we continue to move in the direction, the election is next year, May. I fully anticipate by that time that these orders would have been removed.
We've got more news on the way, but first, here's a check on weather with meteorologist Greg Thompson. Good evening, Greg.
Thanks, Kyle, and a good Tuesday evening, everybody. A warm day around the islands. Temperatures managing to get into the low 90s. We are settling into the low 80s, 80 degrees outside our studios. Few clouds, we'll call it warm. That southeasterly wind flow bringing in those warm temperatures at around 6 knots. Slight breeze, and of course your feels like temperature also in the mid-80s. Satellite view, beautiful conditions around the islands. That ridge of high pressure remains in charge of our weather. Just a couple isolated thunderstorms popping up across the Big Yard as well as just to the southwest of Bimini. We could continue to see 1 or 2 showers later on tonight. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us. Your forecast is still to come.
Still to come, the U.S. Northern Command donates equipment worth $6 million to the Defense Force. Plus, could private companies get approval to secure COVID vaccines? Stay with us. Government is considering giving approval to private companies in the country to secure COVID-19 vaccines, according to Health Minister Reverend Wells, who said officials are still in talks with vaccine manufacturers and distributors to secure more doses.
We certainly do need more vaccine, and the government is very aggressive in seeking to procure more vaccine.
As of June 19th, over 79,000 doses of the vaccine have been administered throughout the Bahamas. Wald says that doesn't include the thousands of Bahamians who were vaccinated in the U.S.
We do have about around 2,700 persons, Bahamians, who would have been vaccinated in the U.S. The vast majority of those, I think some 1,500 of them actually received Pfizer. We had another 400 or so with Johnson & Johnson, and then the rest of them were actually Moderna.
The U.S. Northern Command donated 3 safe boats as well as communications and biometric equipment to the Royal Bahamas Defense Force today. Commodore Raymond King said the $6 million donation will aid in their drug trafficking and migrant smuggling operations.
When you have an operational spare that is disaggregated, whereby we're now decentralizing, as I mentioned, throughout the Commonwealth of Bahamas, you must have effective communication in order to have command and control OV operations. And the biometric equipment, that gives us an opportunity to validate persons who we interact at sea, to determine if they're flagged, if they're wanted, if they have a criminal background, and it helps us determine in terms of who we should detain for a further period.
The U.S. Chargé d'Affaires, Commodore, and National Security Minister took the vessels for a test ride. Dame said the safe boats are great vessels, adding the relationship between the Bahamas and the U.S. is a special one.
There's a mutual interest here that we're neighbors, and we have to work together to protect our borders. That's the only way we can effectively address the problems associated with transnational organized crimes such as drug trafficking, human trafficking, illegal poaching, and gun trafficking and other forms of crimes. And so this is a very unique partnership.
Well, those 6 officers of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force are in quarantine. Commodore Raymond King says they've been managing the pandemic well, and positive cases are trending downward.
I was advised yesterday that we may have a suspect case in Bimini, and so we sought to quarantine the rest of the team. So we have a 6-man team in Bimini. But, as an abundance of caution, we would have quarantined the rest of those members until either we verify the individual's situation. And so for several weeks now, our cases would have hovered around 1 to 2 persons at best.
Aside from the suspected case on Bimini, he said there is only 1 active case on New Providence and no other officers had to be quarantined.
The numbers continue to trend down. I don't have a count now, but these agencies are doing extremely well. It's not a problem where it's impacting their operations.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
Up next, the QC Comets celebrate outgoing Vice Principal Virginia Minnis. And later, the new Duff levels up. Stay with us. You're watching Our News. Welcome back. With just days left in quite a unique school year, one veteran educator is closing one chapter and beginning another after over 40 years of helping to shape some of the country's brightest young minds.
I am on this picture. Here I am. Yes.
On the wall of the foundation years at Queens College hangs a picture of smiling little faces and one special woman who just happens to be saying farewell to the institution after 43 years. Days away from retirement, Virginia Minnis is looking back at her time as vice principal and the over 4 decades she spent shaping some of the country's brightest young minds.
I can tell you, any little cry that I hear, I know I must go to that little one to find out, make sure that they are happy and they're comfortable. So I'll probably miss that. I know I would.
Minnis's constant reminder of the golden rule, treat others as you'd want to be treated, is one that she says she hopes her students take with them throughout the rest of their life. Creating a special bond with all of the little hearts that passed through QC's foundation years, Minnis says she found it important to leave a lasting impact on all of their lives.
Usually a hug, a comforting word. Once you reach out and you touch a child, mentally and physically touch a child, they're, much more comfortable with you and you develop that relationship with them as well.
It was way back in 1978. A young teacher in the government school system, Minnis was identified as one who can make an impact at Queens College. 40 years later, and she did just that. Her send-off with signage, decorations, and even her own little garden is a testament of just how much she will be missed.
I was shocked. I saw the busyness and persons going in and out and whatnot. And of course, they had it covered, and they would send me on these long errands or visits and whatnot. And when I come back, it was like, oh, wow.
And your name is on it.
Yes.
A lover of evangelism, this vice principal says her calling to help people and children went beyond the classroom. Minnis takes pride in calling off the names of some of her former students, some of whom playing a big role in helping the country get through the pandemic.
Nakia Forbes is one of those who would have passed through me.
You taught Dr. Forbes?
Yes. Somewhere along the line, I also taught her brother, Khalil Parker. He's the lawyer. I taught him. The chief medical officer, Delon Brennan. All of these are my first grade students.
For Minnis, every little comet shines, and they have fun doing it. But as she prepares for this next chapter of her life, she says it's going to be different, but she's ready.
I'm going to have fun, and I'm going to relax and complete the Lord's work.
Our extended weather forecast is up next, so stay tuned. Partly cloudy skies ahead. Greg is back in studio with our extended weather forecast.
Thanks again, Kyle, and welcome back, everybody, for our second look at weather. That Atlantic ridge of high pressure jutting across the Bahamas and into the Gulf of Mexico, still dominating our weather. A little breezy across the central and southeastern islands. Upper level trough just to the south of Jamaica, triggering some showers near the southeastern islands. We have a frontal boundary across North Florida that is expected to get near the northwest Bahamas throughout the next couple of days. So we could see a couple isolated showers as the system gets nearer to us. The tropics, the National Hurricane Center watching a broad area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms associated with a tropical wave near the eastern Les Antilles. It's expected to move into an area that's unfavorable for development over the next couple of days, so we will continue to watch this one, though we expect it to weaken, and another tropical wave moving off the African coast. Boating forecast for the northwest Bahamas tonight through tomorrow. We expect those winds to be out of the southeast to south at 10 to 15 knots. Seas will be running 2 to 4 feet over the ocean, while in the central and southeastern islands, winds will be east to southeast at 15 to 20 knots. Caution flag posted for you guys down there. Rough 4 to 6 foot seas over the ocean. Tide is presently high, will be low at 11 minutes past 1 in the morning. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Sunday. We could see some isolated showers by the weekend, but we'll keep a monitor on all things. Back to you, Kyle.
The new Dove has rebranded its unique take on the traditional guava Dove, taking the dish from freshly steamed to the freezer aisle. Co-owner Lazar Charlton says they wanted to make their dish more accessible to customers.
We're pretty excited about our new packaging. As you can see, it's bright red, so it attracts a lot of attention, and we want to expand that first across the rest of the country. We're looking at going into Fresh Market Freeport. We're now eyeing Eleuthera and Exuma as well. So once we kind of conquer the Bahamas, next, we're going to take it global. We're continuing to put energy into innovation, and for any young up-and-coming business owners, that's definitely the key to having your business have that global outreach eventually.
The sweet treat can be found at Fresh Market, Old Fort Bay and Harbor Bay. Director of Operations Ryan Lightbourne says it was quite the task creating new packaging for their latest product, which they hope to one day sell internationally.
We had some generic packaging, which was simply clear bag with a paper sticker attached. And what we had to do is we had to upgrade from that to really kind of be taken seriously in the market. So where we are right now, we have our beautiful red bags, which was a painstaking experience for us designing and getting across the finish line.
Well, thank you for joining us for Our News Tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Kyle Joaquin. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.